This is Mr. Swankam Bishavik, take you through themes in African history from 1871 to present, and this is the course description. So the course introduces the student to the history of Africa in the period of scramble for and partition of African territories and how African continent was colonized, administered, and which countries escaped the struggle for colonization. We shall see that some of the African countries were able to escape this wave of colonialism. However, others were victims of colonialism. So the result of African colonization and later the emergence of African nationalism. So after European colonization of different African territories, time came and Africans or African states gained what we call nationalistic feelings, and later on some of them decided to put up resistance towards the European colonial rule. So this is the course objectives. These are the expected goals each learner is expected to score or to achieve in this area after going through this course unit. So we shall be in position to describe the role of different colonial agents towards the colonization of Africa. We shall see the role played by the missionaries. Missionaries came in East Africa in different groups. We shall look at the London missionaries, the White Father, the Holy Ghost Father, and the CM missionaries. So we shall look at the chartered companies. These played the same role, almost similar to the explorers. We shall see the role they played, like the Ibeco, the Imperial British East African Company. We shall look at the Geico, the German East African Company. We shall look at the Bisako, many different chartered companies that were established to help in the process of colonialism. We shall look at imperialists and the many other men on spot that at least helped in the struggle for colonialism. If you look at the imperialists, these people played the same or a significant role, just like the chartered companies and the explorers. Imperialists, they got this title after having crazy appetite towards the African territories. They always fought tooth and nail to ensure that African territories are being colonized. They signed several treaties, they explored Africa, they drew maps, they wrote reports, and they were able to collaborate with some of the African societies, which later rolled through them into the hands of colonialists. We shall be in position to understand or to explain the process of scramble for and partitioning of African territories. The process these European countries took to ensure that there is division, there is fighting for African territories by different European powers. We shall see that the course started with the Berlin Conference, whereby different European countries met and agreed on how they should fight, then divide, then administer different African territories. We shall be in position to explain or to discuss the challenges that modern African independent states face. So African states, after gaining nationalistic feelings, they were able to get their self-rule back to their hands. But we shall see that every good things all good things come with the bad things at the same time. So Africans, after getting their independence, at the same time they faced a number of challenges because they were now newborn, and they were able now to face a number of challenges. However, we had what we call neo-colonialism, whereby still European powers that had colonized the African territories had still control over them, but basically basing from their home countries. So we shall look at the expected learning outcomes. These are the things the learners, at least after getting the knowledge from this course unit, we expect you to know the following things: the significance or the advantages of the Berlin Conference, that is of 1884 to 1885. So the Berlin Conference, this was the key that opened the doors for European scramble for and the partitioning. It gave European countries a lot of power. It gave them the mandate, it gave them the charter, it gave them the authority to come and colonize African territories. And there were some terms and conditions that reached upon by different European countries during the conference. We shall be in position to identify and match the European countries that were so much interested in colonizing African territories. And one of them, it is Britain. Second, we have Germany, we have Portugal, we have France, we have Belgium. We shall see Belgium went in Congo under King Leopold II. France went to Maghreb region, and after having some disappointment with Britain over Egypt, Britain went to Egypt. Britain came and signed the Heligoland Treaty, signed the Hamilton Treaty with the German to exchange territories in Africa. That's when Britain took Kenya, Uganda, and many others. We shall look at also German, who took over Tanganyika, and so on and so forth. So those are some of the European countries that we shall look at during the struggle for European countries. We shall be able to spell out the system of colonial administration used by different European powers like Britain and France. We shall be in position to hear about the direct role and indirect role. And Britain, it is one of the European countries that loved what we call indirect rule. That is a rule that they used to make sure that there is no opposition from Africans. But whenever Africans try to oppose, they changed their attitude, and now they use what we call direct rule. That is use of force. We shall be in position to compare the two colonial administrative systems in Africa, that is the electoral and indirect rule. And then we shall look at the assimilation policy that was introduced in Africa. List the features of colonial economy. Colonial economy, this is the time when cash crops had been introduced in Africa. We shall see the growing of coffee in Kenya, growing of coffee in Uganda, coffee in Tanganyika, and many others. We shall look at tobacco, tea. So colonial economy, this is when the European powers had introduced the growing of cash crops, and now the attention which people had put on different kinds of trades changed, and now they diverted their mind to cash crop economy. Then we shall look at methods and factors that led to the rise of African nationalism. So below here it is the table of content. These are the expected areas for us to cover in this course unit, whereby in case of anything you can also go and generate your own notes, and you then relate, because you have to learn, and the learner has to look for all ways of passing. So you have to compare what we have here, you can make research, then you add on what we've given you, not necessarily basing on what we've given you. So you have to add more to make at least more learning. So we shall look at scramble for and partition. We shall look at colonial administrative system in Africa. Then we shall under the colonial administrative system, there is the direct rule, indirect rule, and the assimilation policy. Talking briefly about the assimilation policy, this is a policy that European powers employed to ensure that Africans are almost similar to them. They wanted to make sure that Africans are like them in terms of education, the language they speak. Even some went far and they all reached the extent of changing their color. So if it was possible for these people to change Africans from being black to look like them, they were going to do it. So assimilation, to assimilate is to actually to put yourself in an image of that particular person, to look like someone. So European powers wanted the Africans to assimilate with them. But time came, Africans opposed this culture. So we shall look at colonial economy in Africa, features of colonial economy. Whenever you hear the word features, that's characteristics of something. If they say features of colonial economy, characteristics of a colonial economy, we shall look at the impact or effects or consequences or repercussions of colonial economy, the rise of African nationalism, the impact of World War II towards the rise of African nationalism, the Cold War politics and its contributions towards African independence. How did the Cold War contribute towards the rise of African independence. Last, we shall look at the challenges affecting modern African states, that is below: neo-colonialism, famine and hunger. We have refugee problem in Africa, and then unemployment. So that is the course description. Those are the areas we're going to cover in this course unit. So when we come back, we shall start with the Scramble for and partition.